This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you in part by the Naperville Sun.
Naperville Central boys cross country coach Dave Ashton. As we see that today, the weather kind of turning to a runner's paradise, I imagine. You talked about the warm-up maybe a little bit more difficult, but once you guys get going, this is essentially the weather you guys love, right?
Yeah, it's good racing weather. You know, it was really warm 2 weekends ago, and a lot of teams were suffering, a lot of inconsistent races from guys. A little bit cooler this last weekend, and it showed. Times are coming down. Yesterday was cool. Times are coming down. So I think this weekend and the weekends to follow will be as good, as productive.
For you guys, it seems like the theme the last couple of years has been some underclassmen really learning at the varsity level quite early. Those underclassmen are juniors and seniors now. How has that been working out for you guys as the season has kind of started and we're really in the mid-season form here for cross country?
It's good. You know, when these juniors were freshmen, they had a few seniors that helped them along. But this is a really talented group of kids, and they've had to, really a trial by fire the last couple of years. We had 4 guys on varsity as freshmen. Those guys have maintained a real tight friendship and a great work ethic, and they've pushed each other along. And now that group's in their junior year, and they're really contributing to a team that's evolved from a very novice team into one that's ready to compete at the level of other schools in the area.
As we move on in the season, what are some of these names of these older guys that we're going to be hearing from?
Our older guys, Forrest Thayer, Brad Kachukas, these are guys that have led the way. We've got some other solid seniors that aren't contributing maybe in the points area, but they have, Larry Spencer is another one of our senior captains. And he's provided a really good example for not just the guys in the top 7, but really all the guys that have come along. We've got a very deep team, I think, as well, and I think that's attributed to the great leadership that these seniors have put forward. So those 3 names, I think, would be the ones that are really pulling us along.
You kind of beat me to the punch there a little bit. My next question is going to be, I imagine these guys with getting that varsity experience so early, does that make them, you think, better leaders once they've gotten to be upperclassmen because they've kind of gone through a lot of the same things these young guys are going through right now already?
I think it does, and I think their contact immediately with older guys, with juniors and seniors right away, training with them and working with them in races, I think it did mature them very quickly. And that's not something you get in a traditional cross-country team setup. You kind of have your frost off and your varsity sort of in separate worlds, but we've been forced the last 4 years to really blend those. And I think that's what's causing this evolution that we're having, and it's really paying off.
Cross country, a sport, especially in this area, you look at the size of these teams, and they're really giant. And on meet day, a lot of these guys, don't get to see as much action. How do you keep some of those guys that aren't in the top 7, top 10 interested, keep them going, and keep that team dynamic in a sport that's so individual?
Well, team is a critical word there. I mean, we work together every practice as a team. We don't value the number 1 runner and the number 86 runner any different. They're really working together not only for the betterment of the team, but self-betterment as well. And they can see the progress that's going meet after meet. And they get to compete every week, once if not twice. So it's not like those guys aren't getting chances to show what they've done in practice. They really are. And even though they're done on the 14th of October, whereas the rest go into the first week of November, they're still getting plenty of opportunities to put their work out there on race day.
And look at the schedule you guys have gone through so far this year. Hornet Red Devil, Royal Cadet, the Woodruff Open. I mean, these are really tough meets against some really tough competition. You guys finishing right around the halfway point, top half in a lot of these meets. How would you grade your team's performance so far?
It's good. I thought our Hornet Red Devil performance was not good, very inconsistent. We did not run like a team. The boys were challenged at Peoria and Marmion to turn that around, and yesterday at our triangular meet, and they did. We took a step forward. I think they're still figuring out that they can compete with some of these bigger teams. We just haven't been there before. And sometimes unknown territory is a scary thing for somebody who's 17 years old. But I think the leadership we've got, I think the guidance that the coaching staff's giving these athletes is going to get them there. I think we were 12th out of about 37 teams at Peoria, and that meet over the past 5 years has just increased in its competitiveness dramatically. So if you look at the teams we're going to be competing against in the regional and sectionals and how they're doing and how we're doing in relation to them, I think it's a promising thing what's going on so far.
And maybe going to an early meet like that one in Peoria, it's at Detweiler Park, the place that is the site for state. Is that a point where you can kind of tell these guys, our goal really is to be back here in a couple months.
Absolutely. It's definitely a pre-state meet. It's a meet for us to get experience racing in the state course. And that's, why we bring several sophomores and several freshmen as well, because we want them to have that experience on the state course so they can see where they're going to be this year, and if not this year, then next year themselves.
A lot of these tough meets early in the season on the schedule, is that kind of a strategic thing where you hope these guys will grow from a lot of this tough competition to put out some stronger days here down the road?
Yeah, we need the experience, and I think this season for us, our focus is evolution. We're trying to evolve to a new team, and we really need the experience from these races early on. I know a lot of the more successful teams in the past are starting to move to a later and later race season, maybe not racing until the second, third week of September, and that might work for them at this point because they've got that tradition behind them. But that's a tradition we're still building. So I still feel that the earlier racing is important right now.
You see a lot of different strategies in cross country at the high school level. You see a lot of guys, a lot of teams running as a pack. A lot of teams that work on that every day. A lot of times, in other cases, you see a lot of teams where it's go out and run your own race. What's kind of your racing philosophy for your team that you've kind of been able to shape in your time here?
It's definitely a hybrid of those things. We send the boys out in workouts in groups. They work in ability groups. It's important for them to learn how to run with teammates, and in races they're running with their teammates, a mile and a half, 2 miles in, and the last mile is theirs to do with what they please. Will that plan change in the season? Probably, depending on how things measure out, but we definitely exercise both. They know that they're not going to get anywhere without leaning on their teammates, and with the squad we have right now, we don't have a real strong front runner. We've got a solid pack. We've had about a 41-second split. Those guys know they got to run like a pack and they got to run tough together, and that's how the job's going to get done. So that's where we're at right now.
Talk about cross country in this area. Throughout the DVC, a lot of tough teams. Neuqua Valley, obviously, with their success in recent years. Does that give these guys kind of a tangible goal that they can see a lot of these people that I imagine are some of their friends, obviously some of their opponents on race day, that something for them to shoot for?
Yeah, we definitely have rivals on both sides. We have Neuqua to the south of us, Naperville North to the north of us. The boys know that. We see them out on the roads every day. We see them, out at meets, and they know that. And they know that the hard work that they're doing is going to get them to that level of competitiveness. But when you've got a school like Neuqua, for example, it has 5,000 kids to pull from. We also know that every man counts, and they know that. And I think they're working in spite of the fact that we've got these powerhouses. You can throw Wabanzi in there too. Always seems to get it done at the right point of the season. So, we're striving. We've got goals. They've got people in Naperville that they want to be able to compete against. I think it's a healthy thing to be in the midst of such a competitive area.
For sure. You guys haven't made a trip down to state as a team since 2002. Naperville Central hasn't. What are a couple of tangible things that need to happen for you guys to be able to possibly make a return trip this fall?
Well, like I said before, the focus on the team is critical. I don't think we're going to get anywhere unless we have 86 guys on the same path, and that's something that we pursue very strongly. I also think that these boys know that we need to evolve. We need to step up week after week and do something new and make changes, and not excuses. And I think they've done that so far. I think we're making steps every single week. If they continue to make steps, I think we're going to be back at the state meet, regardless of the competition that we're running against.
Definitely. Well, Coach, we appreciate you letting us come by. Weather's starting to change for you guys. Hopefully those times are dropping too.
We're hoping so.